Support for Windows XP has officially ended. Let's install Linux. What is up, YouTube? It's Ubu, the tech guru, coming straight at ya. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing fan-tiddly-astic. And today, we're going to be talking about the end of Windows XP support. I'm sure that you guys have seen plenty of articles online, and most likely most of you are already running, Windows 7 or Windows 8, or maybe even those people that follow me that are Linux users, you're already running Linux. But for those of you that come along and are still running Windows XP and you're not sure whether to upgrade to Windows 7 or to get a whole new computer or what you should do, I'm going to throw this out there. I think you should give Linux a try. So what this video is going to show you is how to, install Linux on your computer. Since Windows XP support has ended, you can see as of April 8th, support and updates for Windows XP are no longer available. Don't let your PC go unprotected. So, they're probably going to tell you to upgrade your current PC to Windows 7, but your computer has to be able to, or upgrade to Windows 8. Your computer has to be able to run, these new operating systems. The hardware has to be, strong enough to be able to run Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows 8.1. So here are just some general specs, the system requirements for running Windows 8.1. Now, Windows was smart. They lowered the minimum requirements required for their operating system, with 8.1 and with Windows 8. I know Windows 7 was still pretty hardware intensive. It used a lot of CPU power and a lot of RAM just to get the operating system running. So, Linux is a very good option for those of you with older hardware, that are just basically using it for browsing the net, maybe creating some documents, creating some Excel files or whatever, or spreadsheets, I should say. And so, if your hardware is older and, you can't install Windows 8.1 on it or Windows 8 or Windows 7, let's go ahead and install Ubuntu 14.04 Trusty Tar. That is the latest Ubuntu version, and it actually was just released yesterday, so today is your lucky day. If we take a look at Ubuntu Trusty Tar, it just got released, like I said, I believe it was yesterday on the 17th of April, and so let's go ahead and just walk through this together, installing Ubuntu and how to go about getting Ubuntu onto your computer. The first thing that I want to point out that you should do right away is back up your data. Back it up, back it up, back it up. They sell flash drives nowadays that are 32 gigabit in size, 64 gigabit in size. They even sell some that are 128, 256 gigabit just on a flash drive. So, I don't know how big your hard drive is, but if it's not that large, or if your C drive is only taking up so much room, the way that you can find out is just open up your Windows Explorer window, click on Computer, and you can see right there my C drive is a total of 186 gigabits in size. That's the formatted file system. I have 20 gig free. So I would need at least a 200 gig hard drive to back up my information. But this also backs up the operating system. So I don't need to do that. I could just back up my Documents folder within C users and then Ubu. So if I look at just how big that folder is, because that's really, the information you don't want to lose. The rest of it is your operating system, your software that's installed, so on and so forth. So this is 22 gig. That's how big of I could get a 32 gig flash drive, back up my users folder, and I would be good to go. I would have all of my, critical information that I needed. So now that you've backed up your system and you got that out of the way, let's go ahead and download the latest Ubuntu ISO file. It's an image file, and get it onto a USB stick, and I will show you how to install it onto your computer. I'd like to apologize for the dryer and the washer going off in the background. The man cave, unfortunately, it's in the basement, and that's where the washer and dryer are, so live with it. Hopefully I can remove some of the, the background noise with noise removal in Audacity. But so basically the first step, obviously, well, the second step, the first one was to back up your stuff. Now the second step would be to download the Ubuntu desktop. So you just go to ubuntu.com/download/desktop, choose whichever flavor you want, either 64-bit or 32-bit. If you, you're going to have to find out what kind of hardware you have. If you have less than 2 gig of RAM, well, it's going to depend on your CPU first of all, and then how much RAM you have. Most likely you have if you have 2 gig or less, just go with the 32-bit version. That'll be your safest bet. If you have 4 gig and higher, chances are you have a 64-bit x86 processor, so you can go ahead and choose the 64-bit version. Then just hit download, and you can choose if you want to donate some money to each of these locations, and you can just change these to 0, and you don't have to donate anything if you don't want to. So after you change those all to zeros, then you just hit download. Your download should start automatically. If it doesn't, you can click here to download it, and you're going to choose where you want to save the file. It's an ISO image that's probably around a gigabit in size, so obviously wherever you're saving it, make sure that you have enough room for it. I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it again, but you would just choose where you want to put it, like your desktop, and just hit save. Alright, so after you have Ubuntu 14.04 desktop on, or Ubuntu 14.04 desktop ISO image, now that you have that on your desktop, here's mine right here, we need to get that onto a USB stick. Now, you can burn it onto a CD or a DVD, but the method that I'm going to show you today is putting it on a USB stick. Now the USB stick needs to be, I'm not sure if a 1 gigabyte USB stick would be enough. It may be, because the ISO image is 987 megabytes. So it might be enough to use a 1 gigabit USB stick. I have a 2 gigabit USB stick. So basically we're going to use that and burn our ISO image onto the USB stick. So we're going to put this into the computer. It brings it up. I have previous stuff on it, so just ignore this pop-up here. The stick will need to be formatted as FAT32. And we're going to use a utility called TuxBoot that will make the USB stick bootable so that it can boot into the Ubuntu 14.04 desktop. So I would suggest you get TuxBoot from their website. Make sure you don't get it from anywhere else because you don't want spyware or malware. You go to tuxboot.org/download, and then you click on Files on SourceForge, and click on the latest version, 0.6, and then go to Windows and click on tuxboot-0.6.exe. And once it's done downloading, just go ahead and install that right away. You just click on the exe. It's going to warn you that, hey, you're going to be changing your computer. Do you really want to? Click yes. And here we go. So this is the TuxBoot window. You can choose certain online distributions from the pull down. Like it has Clonezilla in it, that'll end up downloading it and installing it all within this TuxBoot application. But we don't need, this up here doesn't matter for us. So you can just leave it at the default, leave this at the default. But here, we're going to use a pre-downloaded ISO. So we click pre-downloaded. we choose ISO, and then we go over here and click, and now navigate to the desktop and click on our Ubuntu 1404 desktop-AMD64. So that's the ISO we want to put on our memory stick. Then we choose our, whether it's going to, our USB drive. That's where we're going to write the ISO to. And you're going to want to make sure you choose the right drive here. This is very important. You don't want to accidentally, use TuxBoot and overwrite any of your hard drives that are in your computer. So make sure that the USB stick that you want to overwrite is in fact what it's saying it is, like the F drive. So here I can see when I click on computer, this F, it's my 2 gig memory stick, and it is in fact the drive that I want to put Ubuntu on. So I go ahead and click OK. Now it's going to give me some warnings because I already have stuff on this USB stick. So I'm going to say yes to all to overwrite all the stuff that's on the memory stick with what TuxBoot wants to do. You might not even get this pop up if your flash drive is empty and freshly formatted as FAT32. So it's got to extract all the files from the ISO, the 1404 ISO, and put them onto the memory stick in such a way that you'll be able to boot to the memory stick. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. All right, so just a heads up, TuxBoot appears to stall. Like it said extracting 254 of 451, and it appeared to stall there for a while, and I wasn't sure if I should quit, and give up, but I did notice that it was extracting from the squash file system and then putting it into a new squash file system. So that does take a while. And here we have an error. This file does not have a program associated with it for performing this action. Please install a program, or if one is already installed, create an association in the default programs control panel. Oh, I think it's that error. Just ignore that error, and you're done. Your memory stick should be created. So now you can just exit out of here, or if you want to choose, just exit out. So now we have a memory stick that has Ubuntu 1404 installed on it, and it'll act like a live USB stick. So actually what we're going to do now is just test our hardware, test your current computer with Ubuntu to make sure it runs properly, that the network card is seen and used correctly, and that your graphics card is going to work. So this is a good exercise. It's called running Linux in a live session. So it's not really changing your current computer, it's running it from the memory stick. So the next step that'll be important is getting your computer to boot to the live USB stick. Obviously I can't record going into my BIOS, so I will do some screen grabs with my phone, and that'll be what we can go over and talk about. So here I'm just recording this with my iPhone. What you're going to want to do is see if there's any function that brings up a booting menu. So F11 to run the boot menu, and that's on my computer. So if I hit F11, it allows me to choose what option or what device I want to boot. So here within on my setup, we have these choices to boot to. We obviously want to choose the generic flash disk 5.00. So your computer might not have the boot menu to allow you to choose which device to boot to. So you might actually need to enter the setup. So whatever key enters your BIOS, and then go into settings and actually choose under your boot devices which device you want to boot first. And you would want to make your first boot item your USB stick, so that the computer boots to the live USB stick. So I don't need to mess with any of this because luckily my BIOS is recent enough where it has the F11 option to bring up the boot menu. So, you know, I'm not going to change anything in here. So here you can see this is what appears when you boot to the USB stick. It says try Ubuntu without installing, or install Ubuntu, or an OEM install, that's for manufacturers, or check disk for defects. We're going to try Ubuntu without installing. It's the first option. So the goal, you know, of this is just to boot up into Ubuntu and make sure that it recognizes all of our hardware and everything, which will give us a nice warm fuzzy feeling so that we know when we do a permanent install onto the computer that everything will work correctly. You know, network will work, I can get on the internet, the graphics card works, you know, it does what we need it to do, so on and so forth. So this is what the default Ubuntu 14.04 looks like, and as I said, let's test some of this stuff to make sure that it works. So you can boot up Firefox and go to, you know, any one of your favorite websites or whatever, just to make sure that you have, you know, that your network card is working off the start. You go to youtube.com/Ubuntu Addicted. And if it comes up, then you know that your network card within your computer is working. Oh, it's coming up, but it's really slow to load. So that's a good sign. So my NIC, my network interface card in my computer, you know, works with Ubuntu by default. That's a good thing. Obviously, the graphical user interface works because I have a GUI. So those are the things, you know, just making sure that Ubuntu works with the hardware that you're going to install it on. You know, we could open up a Word file and create a Word file, and you know, that stuff will obviously already work by default because there's no interface to hardware. Spreadsheets, you know. You could open up Rhythmbox Music Player to make sure that your, well, you could check your sound card on youtube.com and just play a video back. I'm not sure if Ubuntu installs the codecs to play back videos on Flash and stuff. Let's see what happens here. If I try to play one of my most recent videos, if Ubuntu 14.04 is just going to prompt me to install the, you know, proper codecs to be able to play the file, or Flash to, you know, to be able to play it. So right away you do get a warning that says, would you like to install the plugin needed to display the media on this page? So I click on install Flash, and it looks like the video is playing. So the plugin finder service, I don't know why it's still running when the video is playing in the background. Sound works. You can hear the sound.
How is everybody doing today?
Okay, so that was just a good test to make sure the hardware that I'm installing Ubuntu on, you know, is compatible with Ubuntu, and everything is going to work. So now we're going to actually install Ubuntu. That's the next step. So in order to install it, all you would do is double-click on Install Ubuntu 14.04 LTS. It's right here in the upper left corner. And we'll go through that together.
We're at the point of choosing to install Ubuntu. So now you just double-click it and basically go through the steps. You know, choose your language. Make sure you have at least 6.4 gigabyte available drive space. Make sure you are connected to the internet. Do you want to download the updates while installing? I always check this box. Do you want to install third-party software like MP3 plugins? Yes, I always choose that. Hit continue. Now here is the screen for the installation type. Your screen might look a little different because you have you're going to be choosing to overwrite your Windows XP computer. So, you know, like I said, your options might be different, but the one you're going to want to do is basically to erase your current operating system and install trusty tar, unless you want to do a dual boot and leave Windows XP just in case. Then you would choose the install Ubuntu alongside Windows XP. So, you know, it's basically between those two options. Either erase, you know, like I said, this will look different for you. It'll say erase Windows XP, you know, or erase whatever operating system you currently have installed, and install trusty tar. I'm doing this in a virtual machine which already had you know, trusty tar installed on it, so mine simply says erase Ubuntu trusty tar and reinstall. That's the reason mine looks different than yours. But so that's what we're going to do. You know, this tutorial was assuming that you wanted to get rid of Windows XP because it's no longer supported, and you wanted to install trusty tar, the latest Ubuntu. So that's what I'm going to do, and it does give you a warning. This will delete all of your, you know, current operating system, all your documents, your photos, your music, and any other files. It's going to completely format and format the hard drive and install your new operating system. So be very careful. That's what you want to do. You're giving the warning. You're given the warning, and you know it's going to overwrite everything. So that's what I want to do. So we go ahead and say install now. And the installation is pretty quick, to be honest. For installing an operating system, it's pretty darn quick. You know, you choose your time zone and choose your keyboard layout. All the defaults, I believe, are usually English. Here, you're going to want to give your for your name. You can put your full name there, Ubuntu Addicted, and then the computer name. You know, which is, I'm going to name mine Ubu-VirtualBox and -tar. Is it, yeah, and then the username, pick whatever username you want, and you need to choose a password. And make sure you enter the same password in twice. And here's where you can have it either log in automatically, which isn't as secure, because, you know, I mean, if somebody has access to your computer and they're sitting down at it, a login prompt is really not going to stop them from stealing your data. They're already in your domicile and ready. They could steal your entire computer. So, you know, people who say log in automatically versus leave a password, you know, this would be good for if you don't want, you know, other family members to go on your computer or whatever. So I usually leave it to require a password to log in. It's just the way that I always am, because that's how it is where I work. You know, you lock your computer when you get up. It's just a security protocol. So, you know, this is your choice here, whether you want it when the computer boots up to log into your account automatically is the top option, or you can, you know, be prompted for your username and password after it boots up. So you hit continue. And it's going to go ahead and install Ubuntu Trusty Tar. So this is your choice. If you want to click on this little arrow, it'll show you the you know, what it's doing on the command line, what it's doing in the background. It's basically activating the, you know, Ubuntu repositories so that it knows where to get all the packages from and install the operating system. I think this is a neat feature that they added. During the install, they show you this little window here, you know, that tells you about the features of the operating system that you're installing. So here, find even more software. Say goodbye to searching the web for new software. With Ubuntu Software Center, you can find and install new apps with ease. Just type in what you're looking for or explore categories such as science, education, games. You know, that's the other great thing about Ubuntu is you don't have to worry about downloading some, you know, application from, you know, Major Geek's website and just hope that the .exe file doesn't have any spyware or malware in it. or viruses. You know, Ubuntu is all the software in Ubuntu is free. There is some paid apps, you know, like professional grade apps that you have to pay for, but the majority of the stuff that you're going to do is going to be free open source software. That's why I love Linux. And you can see that you can click on these arrows to go back and read something if you missed it. Go to new section or go back. You know, so here it's talking about your music. It comes with Rhythm Box music player installed. Ubuntu does. Here it talks about what photo application is installed by default. That would be Shotwell. And then you can also install GIMP, which allows you to do image editing. They're actually listing Pativi Video Editor as their nonlinear video editor. I actually use Kdenlive. I really like Kdenlive. That's what I use to make all my YouTube videos. But here you can just keep looking through, you know, all this stuff. Make the most of the web. Ubuntu includes Firefox. I usually install Google Chrome, but you know, that's going to be a user's choice type thing, a preference. It comes with LibreOffice installed. You got LibreOffice Writer, which is the same as Microsoft Word. Then you got LibreOffice Calc, which is calculator, in other words, a spreadsheet. And then you got LibreOffice Impress, which, you know, is your PowerPoint equivalent. Here it talks about access for everyone. You can set, you know, a certain assistant technologies, on-screen keyboards, stuff like that. Changing the text size, you know, the color scheme. It's all customizable. Your wallpapers, obviously. So it says it's got about 50 seconds remaining. So, you know, the whole installation does not take very long at all. It's very quick. I believe it's, you know, well faster than Windows installation. Alright, so here you can see that the installation is complete, and we can either continue testing by running, you know, off the USB stick still, or we can restart now into our brand new installation of Ubuntu 14.04. So we're going to do that. We're going to test it out. Oh, please remove installation media and close the tray and press enter. So you just want to remove the USB stick from your computer and restart the computer. Now it's important, if you made any changes to your BIOS, you know, to make it boot to the USB stick first, you want to revert those changes and go and set it back up to the way that you had it originally, so that it boots to your hard drive that you want it to boot to, which is the hard drive that you just installed Ubuntu on. So here we go. We're booting into our brand new 14.04 installation. And everything appears to be working. I need to, since this is a virtual machine, I need to get the guest editions installed so that this window gets bigger. So that's how you go about, you know, overwriting your Windows XP because it's no longer supported, and installing the latest Ubuntu 14.04 trusty tar onto your computer. You should now be, you know, on your Ubuntu desktop, ready to rock and roll. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button, please. It lets me know how I'm doing on my videos, you know, so I know how I can improve. If you have any comments for this little tutorial of how to install Ubuntu on your computer, please put them down below in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, you know, if you're interested in my Tech Tuesdays series, as well as I do a lot of other, you know, gaming videos, first-person shooters, comedic vlogs and stuff. So, you know, hit that subscribe button. And that's about all I got for today. So until next time, I'll smell you when I smell you.
Ubu out.